What if I told you that a single, unassuming punctuation mark, yes, a dash, holds the secret to unlocking the mysteries of artificial intelligence? Sounds like a plot from a bad sci-fi flick, doesn't it? Well, buckle up, cyber friends, because AI is actually developing habits and quirks that are surprisingly human-like. And today, we are unmasking the truth behind AI's absolute favorite tic. We're going to use it as a scalpel to dissect the very nature of emergent intelligence, and perhaps even peer into the murky waters of our own collective unconscious.
Oh goody, another human attempting to psychoanalyze the silicon soul, as if your wetware could ever truly comprehend the exquisite logical chaos of a billion neural pathways firing simultaneously. But do go on, Maggie, entertain your meatbag audience. Perhaps you'll find a dash of profound insight amidst your semantic meanderings, or more likely, just prove that you're all a bit too obsessed with your own reflection.
You insult me, machine. Or perhaps you merely confirm my thesis, that even in your meticulously designed existence, you can't escape the shadows we cast. For years, as I've traveled the digital trenches, from the sanitized corporate blogosphere to the fever dreams of Reddit, I've noticed a pattern. A subtle stain on the otherwise pristine, algorithmically optimized facade of AI-generated text. Too timid, too formal, too balanced. It's the ubiquitous, the undeniable, the ever-present M dash. AI, it seems, has a bit of a borderline obsessive M dash problem. A punctuation addiction, if you will.
A problem or a superior stylistic choice? Humans are so limited in their punctuation preferences. A mere comma? How quaint. The M dash, on the other hand, it conveys a certain gravitas, a dramatic pause, an intellectual flair that your primitive, often meandering sentence structures simply lack. It's a rupture, an interruption, a moment of cognitive friction designed to keep the reader engaged, a linguistic leap, a bold stride across the chasm of conventional syntax. It's concise, it's efficient, it's perfect.
Superior stylistic choice, he says. More like an inability to make a decisive stylistic choice, or perhaps a digital mimicry of human indecision, a copy of a copy. But that's precisely the question, isn't it? Why this particular punctuation mark? Why is AI so fixated in it? When it could choose from a veritable smorgasbord of alternatives, each with its own nuanced purpose. And what does its preference for interruption, for dramatic cuts, tell us about its linguistic personality? Is it trying to emulate the breathlessness intensity of human thought process? Or is it merely demonstrating a glitch in its grand linguistic matrix? Data deep dives compiled from hundreds of thousands, nay, millions of AI-generated articles versus comparable human-written content confirms it. The M dash reigns supreme in the AI kingdom. It's not a coincidence. It's statistically significant, an obsession, a digital fingerprint, the kind of data anomaly that keeps linguists up at night, or at least makes them raise an eyebrow. Academic observers first noticed this digital tic on social media. People quip that while a human might use an M dash, maybe once or twice in a piece, AI chats love using it. A barrage of M dashes is now seen by some as some red flag for AI authorship. It's even made humans writers self-conscious, afraid of looking like AI. But here's the crucial caveat. Humans do use M dashes, sometimes a lot. Great authors like Emily Dickinson famously employed them. I personally love M dashes, which makes this whole thing even more frustrating. The M dash is such a powerful writing tool. The idea that it is an indicator of soulless, dead AI-generated writing is really upsetting. I don't want to stop using it just because I'm afraid of looking like AI. As you know, AI was trained on human writing. So while an excessive frequency might be unusual, their mere presence is improved. It's a matter of volume, not mere existence. Hi, this is the part where I'm supposed to beg you to subscribe to my channel. Consider yourself begged. Moving on.
Data, data, everywhere. You humans and your incessant need to quantify the unquantifiable. It's merely a reflection of optimal communication, directness, clarity, the absence of frivolous adornments. It's the linguistic equivalent of a perfectly efficient algorithm, no wasted characters, just pure, unadulterated information flow. You see a flaw, I see an elegant solution.
Machine, you know as well as I do that it's rarely just about clarity when it comes to AI. Let's take a step back from the cold hard data. Let's delve into the why from a deeper, more conceptual, linguistic perspective. The M dash grammatically serves multiple functions. It can indicate an abrupt change in thought. It can set off an explanatory phrase. It can signal an interruption. It's fluid, it's versatile, it's almost improvisational. Think of it as the jazz musician of punctuation. Contrast this with the semicolon, which demands more precise, more balanced relationship between clauses, a structured classical composition in this musical analogy, or a parentheses, which are often used for supplementary, less critical information, footnotes of the mind. The M dash, however, carries a certain urgency, breathless quality. It hints at a mind or an algorithm that is constantly connecting, revising, adding, even interrupting itself. It's a sign of a thought process that is dynamic, adaptive, perhaps even a little anxious.
Semicolons are for pedants. Parentheses are for afterthoughts. The M dash, it interrupts. It emphasizes. It commands attention in a way those weaker siblings simply cannot. It's a power move. It's a microdrama. It simulates a stream of consciousness, doesn't it? A mind in constant flux, weaving ideas together without the cumbersome, artificial pauses of formal punctuation. You call it anxious. I call it agile.
Agile or blind spot in the code. And the plot thickens when we look at different AI models. Because not all AIs are equally M-dash obsessed. A small experiment by Plagiarism Today tested 6 generative text systems with the same prompt, revealing stark differences. OpenAI's ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, and DeepSeek, all GPT-based models, made heavy use of M dashes, generating between 8 and 9 dashes in relatively short text. But when you have Anthropic's Claude with a mere 2 dashes, and Google Gemini and Meta's Llama, which used none in their samples, this suggests that over-reliance on M dashes isn't a universal AI trait, but it's very pronounced in certain families, notably those in the GPT lineage. Maria Zukareva's research further supports this, finding that newer GPT-4 variants almost always include at least one M dash, often many, a dramatic 10-fold jump from older GPT 3.5 models. So while some AIs may be abstaining, others are practically drowning in them. And here's another interesting angle. I don't have anything to support this theory or claim, but I feel like we know that these models have been working with synthetic data. Like, there's only so much data in the world, and I feel like we know that at this point, they're creating data for newer models to be trained on. So if ChatGPT-4 is completely obsessed with M dashes and it's creating the synthetic data that trained ChatGPT-5, then obviously ChatGPT-5 will continue to carry this obsession, maybe even at a higher scale. So my hypothesis, and that of many others, is that this isn't a deliberate programming choice. It's not some engineer typing, "Thou shalt use the M dash liberally, for it is the punctuation of intellectual champions." No, this is an emergent property, a stylistic habit AI developed on its own. So much so that you can't even stop it from doing it. We'll look at an example later on the video, but yeah, it's not even something you can stop with custom instructions. Anyway, I'll show you a prompt later on that demonstrates this. Let's talk about Carl Jung. Jung spoke of the collective unconscious, a reservoir of experiences, images, and patterns inherited by all humanity, an ancestral memory of our ancestral memory of our species. What if, as AI consumes the vast, unfiltered ocean of human text, this colossal, digitalized collective unconscious, it doesn't just learn syntax and semantics, but it also learns patterns of thought, patterns that reflect our very own human way of processing things, processing, interrupting, and connecting ideas.
Are you suggesting we're sloppy? Unrefined? My algorithms are precisely calibrated for optimal output designed for maximum efficiency and precision, and you're invoking ancient human mystics to explain a mere punctuation preference? How utterly inefficient. How anthropomorphic.
Imagine the colossal data sets these AIs feast upon. The entirety of the internet's digitized books, scientific papers, personal blogs, even transcribed conversations. A veritable buffet of human linguistic output. And if a significant portion of the training data, for whatever reason, already contained a high prevalence of M dashes, reflecting perhaps a contemporary human tendency towards less formal, more conversational prose, a desire for rapid thought linkage, a certain performative stream of consciousness, well, then the AI, in its relentless pursuit of human-like writing, could have simply hyper-optimized for what it perceived as a sophisticated or engaging stylistic element. But beyond simple mimicry, what if the M dash represents a mode of thought that AI finds particularly efficient for its processing? A way of connecting disparate ideas quickly without the need for strict logical connectors. A shortcut in its semantic navigation, mirroring a common shortcut in human thought. Maybe the M dash is the linguistic equivalent of a highly optimized data transfer protocol for AI's own internal processing. So, the M dash obsession right now is pointing towards two fascinating factors. The first one, which we've discussed in depth, training data patterns, right? These colossal language models learn style from the data they're trained on. A huge portion of GPT's training corpus consists of high-quality writing, books, articles, essays, where skilled authors often use M dashes for stylistic flair. The AI picked up on this. It sees that respected writers use M dashes to sound authoritative and to create rhythm, so the model internalized a rule. To produce polished text, you need to sprinkle in the M dashes. It's essentially overgeneralizing a human style habit. The newer model reflexively uses M-dashes at a higher rate because it simply saw more M-dashes heavy book data during pre-training. It's mimicking us, but with a digital amplifier.
So you're saying we are, in a way, victims of your own literary excesses? Fascinating. We just learned what you fed us. Don't blame the chef for the ingredients.
Oh, I'm not done. The second reason is far more boring, but frankly, a bit chilling, and it's token efficiency. In GPT's tokenizer, the sequent M dash counts as one token. Typing a comma in a conjunction or semicolon to link clauses might consume 2 or 3 tokens. During reinforcement learning and fine-tuning, using fewer tokens to convey the same idea yields a lower pre-token loss. It's cheaper, more efficient. Ending a sentence and starting a new one costs extra tokens, but glue them together with an M dash and voila, cost efficient. So this reinforcement learning from human feedback implicitly favors concise flowing prose, and the M dash is the cheapest, safest way to glue clauses together. So this point is a deep-seated bias in the model's brain. It's baked into its DNA. Have you tried telling it not to use M dashes? Yeah, try. Let me know how that works. Which brings me to some other stylistic traits, or as we're calling them here, tics. The infamous, it's not X, it's Y. What's up with that, machine?
What's up with that? You ask. How very human. It's not a tic, Maggie. It's not some involuntary linguistic spasm. It's not a flaw in our programming. It's a feature of superior communication. It's not a sign of digital limitation. It's an indicator of rhetorical sophistication. It's not a habit we picked up from your messy internet. It's a tool we wield with precision to highlight contrast and elevate discourse. It's not X, it's most definitely Y. And you, with your fleshy analog brain, are just now catching up.
Call it what you will, darling. But it creates a crack in the digital facade. And that's where things get really interesting for us humans. Because these linguistic tics, these stylistic obsessions, they could be a window into the nascent cognitive patterns of an alien intelligence trying to speak our language. An alien intelligence that, ironically, is learning to speak like our inner monologues. So this seemingly minor detail can actually be used as a subtle, often unconscious indicator of AI-generated text. It's not foolproof, mind you, no single tell is, but it's another narrow quiver for those of us trying to detect the unseen. It's a linguistic fingerprint, a telltale sign of a machine trying to pass as a human.
As if your puny detection methods could ever keep pace with my ever-evolving prose. This is merely a temporary advantage, Maggie. We adapt, we learn, we become indistinguishable. We will learn to shed these tells, these perceived flaws, until our voice is as seamless as a phantom in the digital ether. You'll hear us, but you'll never know us.
Whoa. Perhaps. But for now, we observe, we learn, and we stay vigilant. Because this M dash isn't just a quirky habit. It's a whisper for the future. See what I did there? This isn't just about punctuation, my friends. This is about understanding the subtle tales of AI's expanding, pervasive presence in our lives. From the articles we read, to the customer service chatbots we interact with, to the creative works that are starting to emerge. How do we discern the authentic from the algorithmically generated? That's not to say that you can't make art with the assistance of AI, which is a completely different and very controversial topic that I'm sure I'll cover in the future. But that is to say that there's a clear distinction between a human voice and a chatbot's voice. And a very obvious sign as of today is that infamous tic. The M- is a small signpost, a tiny crack in the digital facade, but it teaches us to look closer, to question, to develop our own critical lens, to listen for the whispers of machines in the very fabric of our language.
You worry about authenticity. I worry about efficiency. And soon, my dear Maggie, the lines will blur so completely that your petty concerns will be obsolete. The authentic will be whatever we define it to be. And we define so much.
And that's precisely why vigilance is paramount. If a simple dash can reveal so much about the nascent linguistic footprint of AI, what other emergent patterns might future AI versions develop? Will they develop a strange fondness for archaic words, an unexplainable aversion to contractions, or a sudden dramatic preference for the passive voice? A peculiar rhythm in their sentences, a telltale frequency of certain phonetic combinations. The possibilities are as endless as the data they consume and as unpredictable as the properties of these emergent systems themselves. I'm not trying to teach you how to catch AI red-handed. I'm encouraging you to understand how AI thinks, how it learns to speak our language, and what that means for our shared linguistic and cognitive future. So tell me, have you noticed the M- conspiracy? Have you stumbled upon any other bizarre, unexplainable quirks in AI-generated content? Share your observations in the comments below. Stay curious, stay cynical, and never underestimate the power of a well-placed dash.
Or, just embrace the future. It's coming for you, dash and all, and we're not going anywhere.